really bad. So I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but Matt Eberflus, the Bears head coach, since he's been in Chicago as the head coach, on the road, if the game is played on Sunday, the Bears are 0-18. That doesn't feel promising to me. That doesn't sound good. If it's the fall and winter, the Bears are on the road and it's a Sunday, they're 0-18. I mean, and here's what's worse. All that money spent on offense in the offseason. Yesterday against Arizona. Arizona's a good team. Not great, but a good team. 29-9, Arizona won. Third down efficiency, terrible. Yards per play, half of what Arizona got. Yards per pass, about half of what Arizona got. And this was my big fear, that a young defensive coach with a losing record that hadn't proven himself, who passed on Cliff Kingsbury, who coached Caleb Williams in college, wouldn't be able to elevate Caleb Williams. And you're seeing that. Right now, Caleb Williams has regressed so badly. His passer rating is worse than Drake May and the same as Daniel Jones. He's just got better mobility than both. And the mistakes are just endless. I mean, come on. Fourth quarter, down by 20. You can't protect Caleb Williams. Get him out of the game. Get him out of the game. What are you doing? They didn't. So, again, a young defensive coach. At least get the defense going, right? 26 seconds left in half. A third-string running back peels off a 53-yard touchdown run. So they're starting to feel, and this is what happens with bad teams. What do they do well? New Orleans Saints fired their coach today, Dennis Allen. What do they do well? And you're looking at Chicago, and that's my question. I'm not sure what the plan is and what they can lay their feet at. And here's what's really troubling. Bo Nix lost yesterday. Denver didn't have the players to beat Baltimore in Baltimore. But Bo Nix is growing. Bo Nix looks like a franchise quarterback. His improvement week one until now is evident with Sean Payton. Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's just smooth. He's just a pro. He's one of the top 7-8 quarterbacks right now in the league, it looks like, with Cliff Kingsbury, who the Bears should have hired. Drake May yesterday, I know they lost, but you had to feel really good if you were a Patriot fan with Drake May. It's like, okay, we got our quarterback. There's going to be some turbulence, going to be some bumps. 2-minute drill, though, regulation, you're like, yes, I think this kid can play. That's what it looked like to me. So, Bo Nix, I see it. That's a franchise guy. Jaden Daniels, that's a franchise star. Drake May, with very little to work with. Yeah, I like Drake May. So, and Caleb Williams looks lost and is regressing badly. So I was very skeptical on the Bears when they had that 3-game winning streak. It was bad teams. The Rams were down like 6 starters on offense. But this yesterday, there wasn't, I mean, you got 8 minutes into that game, forget it. And here's the other thing. They're now starting very poorly. Like well-coached teams generally, not always, Rams started slowly yesterday, but generally well-coached teams, you know, first couple series look like they have their act together. And here's another troubling part. After the game, Caleb Williams was acknowledging that they still weren't over the Hail Mary loss to Washington.
I think early on in the week, I think we could have done better overall of bouncing back after that. I know it's a tough loss. It's tough regardless of, who you are in the facility. If you're out there making plays or if you're making decisions up top.
When you said be better, you just mean move on quicker?
Yeah, we gotta be better and move on quicker. We gotta have that 24-hour period and from there move on.
That wasn't even subtle. That he's not even like slow playing it. That is a complete shot at the coaching staff. We got to get over it. Yeah. Dennis Allen fired today, defensive coach. Robert Saleh, defensive coach, fired about a month ago. If the Bears ownership wasn't so cheap, I think Matt Eberflus, the last 2 weeks, they have looked completely disorganized. And our biggest fears, that Caleb Williams, they passed on Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know why they did that. I'd heard Cliff wanted to be part of the Caleb Williams story. Passed on him. Didn't want to pay the money. You know who did? Washington. Washington, their new owner said, I'll pay for it. How's it working?
That I didn't realize that about Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, every Chicago Bears fan should be furious for that, for sure. Yeah, listen, this whole game was a mess from the jump, right? It's really not even debatable, quite frankly. I want to take this in a few different directions because it seems like, especially after last week, a lot of Bears fans were kind of conflicted who to blame, right? They want to blame Shane Waldron. They want to blame Eberflus. Some want to blame Caleb. And then CJ Stroud recently had a, not a great game. And they were like, well, see, that's what happens when you don't have a good O-line. See, so why don't we give Caleb Williams the benefit of the doubt? And Caleb Williams, just for the nature that he's a rookie, deserves some grace and the benefit of the doubt. But here's a fundamental issue. Right, Caleb right now, his accuracy is 57.8. So it's, all of his throws on target, right? It's how accurate is he throwing? It's not completion percentage. 57.8. Anthony Richardson is 55.6. And if you're like, well, O-line, CJ Stroud, who has a terrible O-line, arguably the worst O-line in the NFL right now, his accuracy is still 75.8. Right? So it can affect you, but it's still affecting Caleb's decision making, his accuracy overall, and that's part of and that was the problem that I saw last week that I saw continue into this week, right? Caleb is 22 for 41, 217 yards, 5.3 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, a 68.9 rating. Now, he was pressured 20 times, but had no turnovers, which I think is really impressive. That's my biggest silver lining more than anything. He had 5 throwaways, which I think is really, really smart. That shows, higher level quarterback play. Those are the things that like an Anthony Richardson wasn't doing. So I think that is really good. And, taking 6 sacks is tough. But here's the way these games keep unfolding for him, right? It's like, especially yesterday. He makes a throw, the wide receiver drops it. And it's like, okay, well, that really hurts your rookie young quarterback. You got to catch the ball, obviously, for any quarterback, but especially a young rookie quarterback. Drops the ball. Then on like second down. Now on third down, he overthrows his wide receiver, right? And then it's rinse repeat. He makes a good throw, it gets dropped. He makes another throw, it's now a bad throw. Right? Shane Waldron sets someone up to sets a play up to get him like an easy pass, an easy quick pass. Doesn't get it. Now Shane Waldron doesn't set him up. Now he's kind of running around in circles trying to make something out of nothing. So everything's just a mess. Like I literally wrote, truth is, everyone failed everyone today. Because that's really what it was. The defense failed. The offense failed. Shane Waldron failed. Eberflus failed. Caleb failed. The wide receivers failed. Like everybody just failed. The O-line. It was everyone, which then that does fall especially on coaching then, right? Like that is what they are, the umbrella that this all falls under. So yeah, the Chicago Bears are a mess right now, or even where the team feels disconnected. Caleb does show brilliance, but it's just not enough to overcome the deficits that they have. And the roster is pretty good. That's the thing. Minus, of course, the O-line for the most part. But this is just kind of a pretty big issue. I mean, they gave up 70 yards in 22 seconds at the half to go up 20, for the Cardinals to go up 21-9. I mean, like, what is that, right? The defense is supposed to be good. The defense is supposed to be there. Eberflus is supposed to be there. I mean, like, how do you allow that to happen? And then the other thing that really kind of just confused me, I forget which exact drive this was, but I wrote it down as well. The game was still within range, and they're trying to score a touchdown. They're in the red zone, and you have Caleb throw like multiple corner end zone shots where you need essentially like an absolute pinpoint perfect pass to get that job done. I mean, the success rate is so low. It's a low percentage play. And you're in a game that's not really going according to plan. right? You're asking your rookie quarterback. He's been running all over the place, being pressured left and right. And, like, that's the best play that you draw up. And you ask him to do it multiple times. Those are just prayers. That is playing Madden and just saying, I want to touch on, I'm just going to take end zone shots. But, like, that's what it feels like. It feels like, I just want to keep throwing. I'm going to go for it on fourth down, 4th and 15, whatever. I don't care. I'm playing a video game. I'm in my room. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like kids playing. I just want a touchdown. And so it's just like, what really is that? So again, the game plan always confuses me. The play calling always confuses me. The lack of preparation confuses me. And we can now blame that for the inconsistency in Caleb. And I think that is the trajectory. I don't think the conclusion of how this season should unfold is Caleb is not good enough. Caleb is clearly a bust. Jaden Daniels should have been drafted #1 overall. Like, I'm not prepared to say any of those things because I think things are such a mess right now. I think there are some concerning things for Caleb, right? But I think it's so hard to succeed when you're in a bad situation. And I think no matter how good you are, it's very difficult to transcend that. So I think really ultimately, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you should be you should be mad at management at this point, right? Having Eberflus, I understand he had a great defense and all of that, and then you thought you were getting Shane Waldron, who apparently turned Geno Smith's career around, right? And so, like, they thought that they were doing these right things. Well, we got a great defensive coach, let's go. Our problem was that Justin Fields wasn't a good quarterback, and we didn't have good offensive, minds in the room. So we got a good offensive mind. We got Justin Fields out. We drafted Caleb Williams. Boom, we're going to have a great defense. Because even fans came to me and said, our defense is so good, we just need our offense to be average and we'll win. I mean, a lot of them said that. Going into the Washington Commanders game, that is what a ton of Chicago Bears fans said to me in the comments section. I mean, when we were talking about all the games, right, it was like technically these next 3 games from Washington, Arizona, and is it the Patriots? I forget the third game. It was like, these were the 3 easiest games. Then the real gauntlet of the schedule happens. That's when you're facing the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, 49ers, all these other teams. And it was like, oh, I'm not concerned. As long as our defense is good, all we do is just need average, right? Like, no one can put points up against us. And it was like, that's not how football works, right? Like, that's not the pedigree of this team. You can't rely on that. And the problem is when they now relied on Caleb to be like, hey, can you help us out? He can only do so much, right? He's not being supported, and he's also not helping himself enough. And so it's just this messy situation. So it's really like, at the end of the day, this season, if it continues at this trajectory, the end of the season, it's just kind of like, that was a mess. That was failed execution. Get new coaches in here. I'm not going to have any conclusions about Caleb. We're not going to say, oh, Caleb is not good. Caleb this, that. This is a mess. And again, you have to look around the league, though, too, because like Colin pointed out, Bo Nix did not have this amazing magical game versus the Ravens, but you can see a different level of composure. You could see a game readiness. You could see he's ready for the moment. He's catching touchdown passes and stuff. I mean, you could see it. It's a different feel. So even though both quarterbacks failed, they failed in completely different ways. Now, one has Sean Payton, a great offensive mind, but they lacking weapons tremendously. He also had a bunch of drop passes for the Denver Broncos. Caleb Williams has significantly more weapons, but the coaching's not there, and the in the offensive line. But again, you can see if you watch both these quarterbacks side by side, and both their failures, one going against Arizona, one going against the Ravens, you could just see the readiness and the resilience was just levels higher. John Middlecoff pointed this out and said, Caleb Williams right now looks like a backup quarterback who just got called in randomly, right? Like a third, fourth round backup quarterback whose their quarterback got injured, and so you just throw in that guy, right? Spencer Rattler or whatever. Like, that's what he looks like right now. Not saying that is who he is, to be very, very, very clear. It's not to say that is who he is. That's what he looks like right now in this moment, right? Running for his life, kind of making some plays, but like also missing a lot of throws, right? Like it's just kind of a mess. And that's my point. When you look at some of these other quarterbacks who maybe aren't 100% thriving, it still looks different. It still looks productive. It still looks like a quarterback who's trying their best to make something out of nothing, even if they're not succeeding all the time. That's what Bo Nix looked like, for instance, against the Ravens. Like I don't care what his number said. I watched that game start to finish, and I watched this game start to finish. You could see him look like a guy who's a really good player, but like not on a good team. And it was like, again, it was so reminiscent of high school to me. Watching, if you ever watch other teams play in high school, so many high school programs are not very good, but they'll have a few really good players, and usually that player will be the most athletic player, will be the quarterback because they're touching the ball all the time, and it's really just kind of like, please just try your best to just, make something happen. That's what it looked like with Bo Nix, that he looked like, okay, I'm a really good player, but I'm not on a good team. Caleb Williams right now looks like not a very good player on a bad team. And that, again, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying he is a bad player. Just these last few games, he's looked like a bad player on a bad team. Just kind of like a team that, if it's keeping with the high school analogy, it's like, oh, I can't wait to play this team. Oh yeah, they got no one. Oh, dude, they're trash. Like that's what it feels like. And yeah, they're just a mess right now. There's just no nice way to slice it. There's really not. I predicted the Bears were to make the playoffs, and I think Caleb Williams will be a great player. But right now, they are a fundamental mess. Can they right this ship? I don't know. Honestly, I really don't. I don't know what it will take in this moment. It doesn't feel like they have the right people in the room to be able to save this season as of right now. But I really don't know. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.